Okay, so I'm going to be talking about puncture wounds. So when the instance of a puncture wound arises, always make sure that the scene is safe to enter. Once you have determined that the scene is safe to enter, approach the athlete and find out what object is puncturing the athlete, where on their body they are being punctured, and if this puncture wound is potentially life-threatening or not. Once this happens, obviously apply some sterile gloves because since this is a puncture wound, there will probably be some bleeding. Even though bleeding may be minimal or light, there probably will be some bleeding. So always make sure you have gloves to protect yourself and to protect the athlete. Once you have applied your gloves, remove any protective equipment that the athlete may be wearing, such as helmet, shoulder pads, anything like that that could be in the way of getting to the injury itself. Once you have cleared everything from the athlete and have a good visual of the puncture wound itself, start to clean it with either tap water or a saline solution. Do this at a steady stream to wash away any debris or any dead skin that may be on the athlete. Sometimes if the puncture object is inserted into the athlete, you may need to pick out some elements of debris with tweezers, because sometimes pieces of debris can get shoved pretty deep inside the wound itself. Once you have cleaned the wound, start to bandage it. Do not remove the object from the athlete. If you do this, it could cause the athlete to bleed more. It could cause loss of consciousness from bleeding, altered mental status, all different kinds of medical problems could arise. So leave the object in place. The only time it would be okay to potentially remove an object would be if they were punctured through the cheek, just because it is really hard to stabilize the cheek. So unless it is through the cheek, leave the object in place. Now you're going to stabilize the object by applying some ACE bandages around the puncture item itself. I have a pencil here just for demonstration purposes. So if I were to have a puncture wound through the top of my hand, you would place a bandage on both sides of the object, okay? And then you would take another ACE bandage and wrap it around my hand to secure those bandages in place so that the object would be secured in place. Never apply the bandage over the top of the object, because that could cause it to be further pushed into the victim. So once that is done, monitor the patient until EMS arrives. Once EMS arrives, make sure that they are transported to either a hospital or a trauma care center. Once at the hospital or trauma care center, further treatment will take place there. More than likely, the object will be removed from the patient and they will be sent home to take care of themselves. So, home treatment for a puncture wound. This could lead to a lot of bleeding, potentially. So always make sure that gauze pads are at the ready. Place a gauze pads over your wound. Make sure to clean it at least once a day, and change out your dressing as often as the patient feels necessary, or as often as the primary physician has told them to do so. Okay. As far as any signs or symptoms go that the patient should be concerned of, if they have any continuing or worsening pain in the area, obviously go back and see your physician. If the area begins to bruise and bruising worsens over time instead of gets better, contact your physician. Let me think. If you notice that any type of redness or itching, any type of signs that could possibly indicate to an infection, should be warning signs to go see a physician about this. And that's pretty much it for puncture wounds.